Okay, today we're going to start Yudalet Amud Beis. It's 14b. Towards the end of the first parak. We'll start from Leima Hilach Kazachi. Hilach Kazachi. Leima would be the first word of the paragraph. Yeah.
Sorry, treasure murder. Traffic go bad?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Plus of our learning, we should have basic English. We've been discussing the concept of when someone gives a messenger something to bring to someone else, do we say that the messenger is acquiring it on behalf of that person? And the term that we're using is chaylech. Someone says, bring this, take this, walk this, bring this to someone else. Is that like he told them kizachi? Like acquire it on his behalf. So that was a discussion before, and it came into a question, especially if the person, the recipient, passed away already, you give it to the inheritors of the recipient. We say that when it was already given, talking about a gift, when it was given to the messenger, the recipient was alive, and then he passed away. But because he already acquired it on behalf of the recipient while he was alive, then it would be given to the inheritors of the recipient. Or do we say that no, the person passed away, you have to bring it back, because when he gave it to him, he did not acquire it, and by the time he reaches him, he's already passed away, so he never acquired it at all. So you just bring it back to the sender. Well, the Gemara says, Leima, let us say Haylach Kazachi. That when we say Haylach Kazachi, Tanaihi, it's actually a Machlekes Tanaim. It goes back to the Mishnaic times, where there's a Machlekes regarding something else, which we'll say is really a Machlekes about Haylach Kazachi. Okay, so what was the case over there? The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Haylach Mana Leplani. If someone says, bring this $100 to so-and-so. It's a gift. The person goes, he looks for him, he can't find him. So, you bring the money right back to the Mishaleach. You bring it back to the sender. In other words, you don't give it to the recipient. The recipient isn't around. You don't give it to the inheritors of the recipient.
That's if he says what?
He says, bring it.
Oh, then that's...
You don't say that the recipient acquired it and now it belongs to his inheritors.
Well, it depends.
Do you have in your commentary when he said that he brings it, he doesn't find the recipient? Do you have that it says that he died?
Yeah.
They add that in, that he died?
Yeah.
In the comment.
In
bold it says he died?
No, if the sender died, Rabbi.
No, not if the sender died. I want to know if it says they didn't find him as he had died. Yeah, so therefore I could have given it to the inheritors, but I don't. Yeah, well, in the text of the brisa, it doesn't say that he died. But the
couldn't find the phrase "are you dead?"
For he is already dead. The logic of it is that he died, because we're suggesting that he could have given it to the inheritors, but he's not going to. What do you mean inheritors? So obviously it's because he died. He's not going to. He's going to bring it back to the sender. That's the Tanakama's opinion. Now, from that we could understand that they hold Haylach Lav Kazachi. When they said bring it, they did not say acquire it on behalf of the recipient. That's pretty clear, right? Because when you don't find the recipient, instead of giving it to his inheritors, you bring it back.
So what would you have to say for
That would say Zachi. They directly acquired on behalf of Shimon.
Right. I'd say most people would say it the other way. Acquired. Well,
and say, take this on behalf of so-and-so, and now go bring it to him. Anyway, he didn't say that. He just said, bring it to him. Rav Nassan and Rav Yaakov Amar. Rav Nassan and Rav Yaakov say Yachzor Liyashim Mishaleach. That I'm sorry, I skipped one detail. Meis Mishaleach. What happens if the sender? That's an important point. What happens if the sender died? Rav Nassan and Rav Yaakov Yachzor Liyashim Mishaleach. Clearly, you don't say Hoylach Kazachi. Here, you bring it back to the inheritors of the sender. It's not the recipients at all. Even the sender isn't alive. You still bring it back to his inheritors.
So what they go into like his bank account and take the money without asking?
No, the opposite. Money was given to a messenger to bring to Shimon in another city. He doesn't find them. He doesn't find them. Reuven that sent the money, though, has passed away by now. The messenger has to come back.
Reuven's the one that has credit.
No, here it's just a gift. Reuven is sending a gift to Shimon. He tells the messenger to take the gift. When he arrives there, the messenger, when the messenger arrives, the recipient is not alive. So he wants to go back to give it back to Reuven, but Reuven had passed away also. So he says that Reb Nassan and Reb Yaakov say you give it to the inheritors of the sender, which is clearly not that the recipient has not acquired it. Yeshayimrim, there are others that say, it's interesting because Yeshayimrim often in Mishnayos is the view of Reb Nassan. Here, Yeshayimrim is not Reb Nassan because Reb Nassan already has the opinion. That's a very interesting point. I think we learned somewhere that Yesh Imrim in a Brisa is not the same as Yesh Imrim in a Mishnah. Yesh Imrim in a Mishnah is Reb Nassan. Reb Nassan Yaakov had that statement. Others say, this is the next comment, right? There are those that say, this is the next opinion. You see that? After Reb Nassan. Some say, now we have a Gemara in other places that if whenever it says others say, it's referring to Reb Nassan. I'm just commenting that over here it can't be Reb Nassan because Reb Nassan. So others say that you give it to the inheritors of Shimon, which is the inheritors of the recipient. That would mean that Hoylach Kazachi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Aimer Mishum Rabbi Yaakov Sham Mishum Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says the name of Rabbi Yaakov that says the name of Rabbi Meir. Mitzvah l'kaim divrei hameis. Mitzvah l'kaim divrei hameis would mean that even if, usually I don't say Hoylach Kazachi, that the recipient is acquiring it automatically by the messenger taking it. Usually I don't say that. But over here I do say it because the person is dying. And he actually did die. So mitzvah l'kaim, there's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of the deceased. So I say in that case that I do acquire it, that the messenger acquires on behalf. Okay, that would be in the special cases you do say that. Chachamim say we have a doubt over here. Because of a doubt, you just divide the money. Half of it goes to the inheritors of the sender, and half will go to the inheritors of the recipient. That's one of the ways we deal with doubt. Divide it in half. That's the rabbis, that's the sages. The Khan Amru, however, in Bavel they said, Kol Mashiyitzer Shliach Yasa. Whatever the Shliach wants, he can do. This is such a doubt that the Shliach can decide. Now, Rashi learns that what it means the Shliach decides is that the Shliach should decide what was the intention of the sender. How does he word that? He says, if he really was very generous and he loved the recipient and his sons, then he probably wanted to give it to the sons as well. If he did not, if it was in a fight with the sons and only liked the father, then he probably wants it back, right? So the shliach should decide on his own based on his knowledge of the situation. Yeah, you don't have to learn, if you don't learn like Rashi, which I saw the commentators don't learn like Rashi, they just say, it doesn't have to do with the messenger making decisions based on his information that he has. What it says is he could decide. He doesn't have to, whatever he decides is okay. Okay. Reb Shimon Anasi. Reb Shimon Anasi says, the Gemara is going to discuss later if his name was really Reb Shimon Anasi or if his name was Reb Shimon and he was saying on behalf of the Nasi, or is saying what the what the Nasi said. Shimon Nasi says, Al Yadi Hayamaisa, I actually had a story of Amru, and I was told, they said to me, Yachzir Yoshem Mishalech, that you give it back to the inheritors of the sender. Means most opinions over here hold that Hilach is not Kizachi. Take this does not mean acquired on behalf of, which means until it gets there, you don't say that. Are you looking for the place? What page are we on?
67.
In your book, it's 67 or 68. 67 on the bottom. We're holding now, my lab Bakamifgi, is it not that this is what they're arguing about? Tanaka Masava, the first opinion that says that give it back to the sender, that means because take this does not mean acquired on behalf of Nasan Nami Muslim and Yaakov that say that you give it back to the sender, to the inheritors of the sender, they say. Also they hold that Hilach is not Kizachi. Take this does not mean acquired on behalf of. And even though the sender died, you don't even say Hilach Kizachi when the person died, which would be more of a reason to say that since there's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of the deceased, say that probably we should acquire it on his behalf. You acquired on behalf of the person. The Yeshaimim, however, the others say Hilach Kizachi. The Yeshaimim said that you have to give it to the inheritors of the recipient. Well, obviously, because when they gave it to the messenger had acquired on behalf of the recipient already. Now that the recipient died, his inheritors get it.
If you don't say Hilach Kizachi, so when does the person who the gift was intended to, when does he get it?
When he receives it.
Now, the individual who was the messenger came to town looking for him, couldn't find him. He could have thrown it in his front yard, right? Your yard is kind of.
Your yard is kind of bad. I think you have to be standing next to it, or it needs to be at least a guarded yard with a closed gate
Okay,
or
so
something.
he could have thrown it in his fence. Could have given it to his wife, his cleaning lady, kids. So the point is, even the fact that he died, once he got to town, wasn't there a way to rectify this?
Yeah, but we're saying that because it was a gift, it wasn't a repayment of a loan. So because the intention of the sender was only to give the gift to this person, he can't just give it to his brother, to his wife, to his kids, or whatever. That wasn't his intention.
Means they had the sender known he died, he wouldn't have necessarily.
Maybe anyone would have sent it. So you have to go back to the unless you say Halach Kizachi, he already acquired it. Then you can give it to his inheritors. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Mishim Rabbi Yaakov Shem Mishim Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says the name of Rabbi Yaakov. That says the name of Rabbi Meir. I think Rabbi Yehuda says. What happened?
In more modern, you just stick in his mailbox, right? That
Right.
accepting it for it isn't the. I don't want to say throw it in his yard. I mean literally throw it in his front yard. Right, exactly.
Yeah, signature required.
That's basically what Hilach Kizachi.
Uh-huh.
Or love.
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was much younger than Rabbi Meir. He says that the reason why he was so successful in his Torah was because he saw the back of Rabbi Meir. Right? So here, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is saying in the name of Rabbi Yaakov, that says in the name of Rabbi Meir, it says Hilach Lav Kizachi, that it's not considered acquiring an asbeach. However, if the recipient died, not the recipient, I'm sorry, if the sender died, meaning mitzvah kaim divrei ames, then we say that Hilach is Kizachi. And we say that he does acquire it on behalf of the recipient, because since he died, since the sender died, and there's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of the deceased, so we're going to give it over to the recipient already from now. The sages say because they have a doubt. In Babel they said Shuda Adif. Shuda means like flip a coin, whatever assessment he makes, the messenger makes. He says that's better than dividing it. I'd rather him make a decision and do whatever he feels is correct, rather than dividing it in half and no one gets the full amount. Reb Shimon Anasi Maisa Asal Ashminan. Shimon Nasi is just telling us the story, but that the halacha, let me use this pencil. The halacha is like Rabbi Yaakov and that's fine. When I learned this, I thought that may be a question. Now I see the Gemara doesn't answer that. So It's not a question. He's just telling us the story, but in the story we understand that the law is like Reb Nosson and Reb Yaakov that say that you give it back to the inheritors of the sender. So that's what. Oh, that's what I meant. That's something else. That was the Lema Ketanai. Let us say that this machlokes is, well, that this whole discussion is just the machlokes about Hailach Kazachi. The Gemara says like that's not what they're talking about here. Really, Bibari the Kuli Alma Pligi, none of them argue about if someone is healthy. If you say Hailach Kazachi, everyone holds Hailach is not Kazachi. That taking something is not that receiving something to as a messenger does not mean that you're acquiring it on behalf of the recipient. But over here we're dealing with someone on his deathbed, and on his deathbed then the halacha is a little different. That's beplukta the Rabbi Lazar v'Rabbanan, machlekes between Rabbi Lazar and the Rabbanan Kamifgi there. That's what they're arguing in. In other words, some of the opinions are going to hold like Rabbi Lazar, some of them will not hold. We have over here a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus a story. We have 6 opinions in a story, so it's a lot of things to analyze now. The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Let's say someone wants to give an inheritance to his children, but not according to the Torah where everything would be divided equally. He wants to mess things up a little bit, and he wants to give this one this with this thing, and that one that thing. The Bechor gets double, but he wants to do things differently. So he's going to say that give it as a gift before he passes away. Well, Rabbi Lazar, if whether the person is healthy, whether the person is ill, the chasam sheish lamachrayas.
He has to do that before he passes away.
Yeah. Otherwise it's too late. No, so if it's property that has achrayas, that means it's realty. Achrayas means responsibility, but the reason why realty is called responsibility is because when someone is owed money, you can then collect it if the person has realty, even if that realty is sold. You can go to someone else, you can go to the purchaser, take it away and say that when I lent that person the money, that property was mortgaged to my loan, and now I'm taking it away. You should have gotten title insurance when you bought it. That you should have done a search to see if he owed money, because anyway, that's the chasam sheish lamachrayas. That means property, and it has a responsibility on it to pay back the person's debts. Basically means mortgage. Niknin, so if it's realty, niknin b'kasav v'shtar chazaka, then the recipient has to make an acquisition. How does he do that? By either transferring money, or he has to write a document, or he has to do a chazaka in the property, which means that if he wants to acquire the property, we're talking about Reuven is passing away, he wants to give the inheritance, well, let's say his name is Yaakov is passing, wants to give his inheritance to Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yisachar, Zebulun, right? He wants to give it to them. So he wants Shimon to take a certain amount of the money or the property. So Shimon would have to do one of these 3 things to acquire that property beforehand. Either to transfer money over to his father, to Yaakov, or he would have to get a document from Yaakov that says that the property is given to him, or he would have to go into the property and start digging around and showing ownership to show that he has set up a fence or something, to show that it's his. Let's say it's personality. That's what Reuven taught us, right? If it's just movable objects, then then he has to acquire it with another type of acquisition, which means either pulling it or lifting it up or something like that. The sages say, that's not so. All he has to do is just say that I want this person to acquire it. Why? Because the the words of a person on his deathbed are acquired, are as if it was an acquisition that took place. All he has to do is just say it, and it's as if it was acquired. The mechanism of how it gets transferred is just with the statement of the deceased, of the person that's dying. Amrullah, they said to him, who's the him? To Rabbi Lazar. There's a story with the mother of the children of Reichel. Now, Reichel is not a Polish way of saying Ruchel. That this is the mother. Reichel is the name of the father.
Whoa.
And the mother of the children of Reichel. Okay? The mother was ill. And she said, Tinasin kivinasi labiti. I want this, I don't know what type of charm it is, some type of jewelry. Any
Brooch.
brooch? It's a clasp. A brooch. Okay. Some type of jewelry. What's a brooch? Like a necklace? A pin?
It's Nushka in French.
Nushka in French, right? I saw that. There's a Yiddish translation in the back of this that tells you, that translates the French. Right after the rush.
Decorated glass.
Yeah. So what daf are we on?
That's about $1.
Yeah. So no, he doesn't say it over. He says I have to look in Mayed Katan and Daf Yomi Warriors over there. Advanced translation. Yeah.
Go look.
Nushka.
Why did you look?
And I don't have it of it. Well, you want to look it up? Okay, so this woman says, give this brooch to my daughter. It costs 12 money. That's a lot of this, 12,000, not 12,000, $1,200. Mesa, and then she died. And the sages said that, yeah, this brooch is going to go to her daughter. See? All she had to do was say it. Doesn't get divided equally amongst all the brothers. It actually just goes to the daughter. Amalahem. So Rabbi Lazar said back to the sages, Bnei Reichel, the children of Reichel, that fellow, they should be buried by the mother. In other words, apparently this was a bad fellow, and the fact that the sages took away an item from them and gave it to the sister or something, that's not a proof. They had other reasons for that. You can't learn from that story. Well, why was he so bad? Rashi tells us, I don't know how Rashi knows this from. He says that they allowed thorns to be growing in a vineyard, and according to Rabbi Lazar, that's considered kalayim. Even though the thorns aren't edible, but they're only edible since they're edible by animals. So that's enough for Rabbi Lazar to be considered kalayim. Usually kalayim, forbidden mixtures, different types of foods. But here it's thorns in a vineyard, and Rabbi Lazar actually holds that that's prohibited. Okay, so if that's the case, now we have to go through all the 6 opinions and say what they hold like. Well, Rabbi Lazar's opinion was that you don't say that the words of a dying person are considered like done, and the sages said that it is. Tanakama, Rabbi Lazar, Tanakama holds that we don't say kizchi, even by a dying person. Right. Now, this was a special case. You can't bring a proof from this case. There were other considerations that you can't prove from this case to every other case. Well, Tanakama Rabbi Lazar, Tanakama holds that even by someone laying ill, you don't say that it's acquired on behalf of the recipient. Nassim Yaakov Nami Rabbi Lazar. Nassim Yaakov also say like Rabbi Lazar, and they add in, I forgot the miss, even though the person actually died. We don't say that it's considered given over, and that's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of the deceased. However, the Yeshayimrim, the others say that's Karabanan. They're the ones that are going to hold like the sages that say that the words of a person laying ill is considered like it's done as if it's been acquired by the recipient. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Sham Mishum Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi that says the name of Rabbi Yaakov, that says the name of Rabbi Meir, that's like Rabbi Lazar. And he said that normally we don't say that it's acquired. However, but if the person had passed away, we do say that it's acquired on behalf of the recipient because it's a mitzvah to fulfill the words of the deceased. Chacham say we don't know what the law is. We have a doubt. They said, the best thing is to let the messenger himself decide and basically we're not going like either one. Basically, the Chachamim and in Bavel, both of them had a doubt. The question is, what do you do when you have a doubt? Some say you divide it in half. And
what if someone passed away and not the will?
Then it gets divided according to the will. If the will doesn't contradict the halacha. If it would contradict the halacha, then the halacha would take over.
Let's say he wants to give like a double portion to like his youngest son.
Yeah, that would be problematic. What did they say? But it would be if a person violates the halacha in his will of how the inheritance should be divided, and he doesn't do a halachic will or anything, is it considered just a prohibition, or does it actually not go that way?
Who are you enforcing this? So a quarter based.
Without the trying to enforce it, just who actually owns it, and then whoever's going to grab it is not the story. Without the enforcing part, what happens in the halacha? The whole thing is null.
Really? But if he were alive, it would be fine.
Yeah, because then he's giving it as a gift.
Oh.
If he gives it as a gift, that's fine. It's only as an inheritance. What is that? In halacha, it does. In civil law, it doesn't.
Civil law would, I mean, civil law will. But I'm saying if you will and
I mean, it has to be given before he dies. Okay. Reb Shimon HaNasi and Reb Shimon HaNasi is just telling us a story of that we're going to paskin like Reb Yaakov, Reb Nassan, and Reb Yaakov, right? The Gemara has a question. Reb Shimon HaNasi Nasihu. I mishmade the Nasi kama. What did he mean when he said Reb Shimon HaNasi? Did he mean that Reb Shimon's last name was HaNasi, or not that was his last name? That he was actually the prince, or do we mean that he said it in the name of the Nasi? Tashema, Rabbi Yosef alachik Reb Shimon HaNasi. Rabbi Yosef says Allah like Reb Shimon HaNasi. Oh, he said Reb Shimon HaNasi. It must mean that that's his actual title. Honorific. That doesn't tell me anything. You're just quoting the Mishnah. He said Allah like Reb Shimon HaNasi, but we have the question on the Mishnah, so we're in the same thing. Well, the Gemara says take. Okay, we don't actually know what his name was. Reb Shimon, the name Shimon was in the family of the Nasiim, was Shimon Gamliel and all of that. Anyway, Gufa. Let's go back to discuss something that we mentioned. Amar Rab Yosef. Rab Yosef says, Allah Reb Shimon HaNasi. Allah is like Reb Shimon HaNasi. Well, Reb Shimon HaNasi's opinion was that it has to go back to the sender's inheritors. So 1 second. We don't say that. We have another halacha that says that we actually hold like that the words of someone laying ill are as if it's considered acquired. And now you're telling me that halacha is like Reb Shimon HaNasi, which means that it's not considered acquired. Well, Rabbi Yosef Mukila Bebari, Rabbi Yosef says that Reb Shimon HaNasi was talking about a healthy person, not someone that was laying ill. Where it says, but it says to his inheritors, it goes back. It doesn't say if it goes to his inheritors, it means that he died. Well, and we also have the rule that you have to follow the rule of the instructions of the deceased. Take out the word Yarshi Mishaleach. So you return it to the sender, not to the inheritors of the sender. Take out that word, and we're dealing with a healthy person, and we don't have that question anymore. That we don't have the contradiction. Okay, Hajjalacha maybe comma. This chapter was called Hamevi, maybe get that we just concluded. and it's called Hamevi Kama. Hamevi Kama means the first chapter that's called Hamevi. Second chapter that's called Hamevi is coming up right now, and they call this Hamevi Get or Hamevi Basra. Yeah.
They both say, on here they both say maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Both of them say Hamevi Get, so it's a little confusing.
So, someone who wants to, I guess, bestow or send some money or something, it's a gift if he's on his deathbed. Is that like considered a gift?
It's considered more than a gift. It's considered that by saying
Just by
that
saying
that person should have it, it's already as if the person acquired it. Like it's, like Zelle, but this is like by just saying it, it goes into his bank account.
Mhm.
Now he doesn't actually go to his bank account, but that belongs to him wherever it
Do
is.
they need witnesses for that too?
Doesn't need witnesses. Probably if there's any sort of conflict, you're going to need witnesses. Okay, we're going to be discussing now. I'm sorry. What was that? Oh, the Zell. Okay.
The Gemara was ahead of time. This way sweet.
So, okay. This chapter goes back to the first Mishnah that we learned. Someone brings a get from overseas. He's required to say, in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. Okay? If he doesn't do that, or if he messes up, he does it a little different or whatever, that's what we're going to learn over here. Maybe get me Medina Sayyam, someone that brings a get from overseas. Va'amar, and he says, B'fanei nichtav, in front of me it was written. Avalei b'fanei nichtav, but it wasn't signed in front of me. I got busy at that time. I ran outside. I wasn't there at the signatures. I'm sorry. I came back. I have the get. So we've learned before that if you can validate the signatures, it would still be valid even if he doesn't say that. But over here we're going to see that it's going to be puzzle. In front of me it was signed, but I wasn't there at the writing of it. I came too late. They told me I have to take it, but I wasn't there at the writing of it. I was there for the whole writing of the get. I was there for the signing of the get, but that first signature took so long. I didn't have patience for the second one, so I left by the second one. I was only there for half the signatures. So, very honest. And it's going to be puzzle.
You made it up.
I added in the details for dramatic. I was there for half the writing of the get, but I was there for all the signing of the get. Which half do you think he was there for? First half or the second half?
Good half.
I think he was there for not the good half, which the Gemara is going to tell us he was there for the second half, which is the boring half. Because that's the part of the get that's sort of like a template. You can't use a template, of course. You have to write it out for each person, but it doesn't say anything significant there. It doesn't say the names of there's no gossip. No, it's coming from overseas. To Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. Well, of course, we're not getting into that machlekes in the beginning of the Mishnah if it's overseas from out of Akko or all of that stuff. Yeah, we are ignoring those details. If you want to find out more about that, you have to look back. So the rule by all of these cases, by the way, is puzzle. The get is invalid. Let's say one guy, there's two messengers here. One guy says, I was there for the writing. Other guy says, I was there for the signing. It's also puzzle. And we're going to see soon that Rabbi Yehuda would allow this though. Two people say, we were there at the writing of the get. And one of them says that I was there for the signing of the get. That's also puzzle. Third person says, I was there for the signing of the get. Rabbi Yehuda says that's perfectly fine. One person says I was there for the writing of the get. But two people said we were there for the signing. then it's going to be kosher because that's the regular way we validate a get anyway. How do you validate a get? You say, do you recognize the signatures? Any document, you would say, you have two witnesses. You have two witnesses that were there by the signing. Obviously, they are recognizing the signature. It's even better than recognizing signatures. We were actually there when he signed it. It's not like you have to recognize the signature. He signed it. Recognize the signatures when I wasn't there. So that's going to be kosher. The Gemara says, Hasulamali. Why do I need this whole Mishnah? I had the first Mishnah in the last chapter 2 weeks ago, which said, Hamevi get Medina Sayyam. Someone brings a get from overseas. You have to say that you were there for the writing and for the signing. If not, possible. Easy. Gemara says, if I would only have the Mishnah in the first parak, I would have thought that you do have to say this. But if you didn't say it, it's still kosher. I would say that that's like a lechatchila, supposed to say it. But b'diavad, if it was happened already, he brought it and he didn't say it, it would still be kosher. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that if he doesn't say it, it's invalid. It's makiv. It affects the validity of the get. Okay, now we're going to go through some cases. The case was where he says, half of it was written in front of me, but it was all signed in front of me. Which half was written in front of him? If it was the first half of the get, the exciting parts, the gossip, the date, the city, the people. So then, Rabbi Lazar already told us that you only need the first line. That's the only significant thing here. The rest of it is just really a template. It's all the same in every get. So, of the get, the first line of the get that contains that information of the names and the place. Rashi says we're talking about the second half. Now, this makes sense to me in my story because I said that the guy showed up late. And so he was there for the second half of the get and the signatures. He missed the first half. So that would not be valid. The guy says, the messenger says, I was there for all the writing, but I couldn't wait for both signatures. I only waited for one. That's puzzle. Amar Rav Chisda. We're going to have over here 3 views in this Gemara. We're going to have the view of Rav Chisda. We're going to have the view of Rava. We're going to have the view of Rav Ashi, and it goes actually in that order because that's the chronological order. Rav Chisda was the father-in-law of Rava, then you have Rava, then Rav Ashi. What's going on with the other signature? There's 2 signatures here. This fellow covers one of the signatures and the writing of the get. He's the messenger. But he doesn't cover the second signature. Amar Rav Chisda says, it's still going to be invalid. It's still going to be possible. Even if there's 2 people that are testifying to the second signature that it's the correct signature, that means they recognize it, it's still invalid. My timer. Why should that be? Umar says, well, why are we relying on one witness, one messenger to validate this document? Why are we relying on that? Well, the sages instituted that we want to rely on one person to allow her to get remarried. So we're going to use one person. Normally, we require 2 people. So Rav Chisda says, but if I have one person for the first signature and 2 people for the second signature, he says, either you'd follow the laws of notarizing a document, which means you need 2 witnesses, or you'd follow it the other way, which is you have one person, but he has to be the messenger. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. It's unacceptable. Either you have to pick one way that you want this to be validated. You can't do half and half. Maskefla Rava. Rava says, 1 second. If the messenger, which is only one person, would have said that I was there for the second, and even according to one view, according to Rashi, even if he would say that I wasn't there for the second one, but I recognize his signature, that would also be acceptable. Taisus earlier argues on this. Taisus says that he can't really say I recognize his signature. He can only say that I was there. But whatever the case is, if he would have said I was there, let's say, or if he would have said that I recognize the signature according to Rashi, I was there for the first signature, I recognize the second signature, it would be valid. So Hashidika Trey Puzzle. Now that you have two people, so it's invalid. You could have used one person, and it would have been valid. Two people makes it worse. It's all for sure kosher. So Ella Amarav rather Rabba says differently. He says Afilu hu ve'echad me'idam al-chasimas yad sheni is puzzle. What we're talking about over here is a very interesting case. He was there for the first signature. Second signature, he wasn't there, but he recognizes the signature. So he says him, we don't have two other witnesses like Rav Chizda wanted. For the second signature,
Just one.
we have him who recognizes the signature wasn't there by the signing, but recognizes the signature, plus another witness to join with him. So what's the problem? Why should another person make it worse? It says, my timer. We're going to say, this is too similar to validating documents in other places. And what's going to happen? The rule is that you have to have two witnesses per occurrence, per event. Over here, I have 3/4 witnesses, all dependent. See, two witnesses means that 50% of the testimony is relying on this one, 50% of the testimony is relying on this one. Over here, I have 3/4 of the testimony relying on this one and 1/4 on this one. Why? Because he's testifying about one signature that he was there for. And then the other one is 50%. That's 3/4. And that's gonna, if we do that by the get, maybe that could work, but we don't want it to work by the get because then it's gonna work by other, you're gonna think that that's how you can validate documents as well. And how would that work by another document? If someone signs the document and he testifies about his friend's signature, and then you get a second person to come in and testify about the friend's signature. So I have two witnesses on the friend's signature and one person on his own signature, which means that he's taking 3/4 of the testimony.
So he would have to see the person actually sign and just recognizing the signature is a good one.
Right. Recognize the signature according to this, because that would require another witness together with him. That would be that would be confused by other cases that you can have 3/4 testimony on one witness.
Why is it 40% that person saw like the right?
First one was there for the signature itself. The first witness was there for the signature. Yeah, which means that we don't need another witness for him. He's 100% of that signature testifying. He's validating that signature 100%. Second signature, he's saying that he recognizes it. He wasn't there. So I need another witness to join with him to say that he also recognizes it. So then it comes out that he has 3/4 because he has the first 100% of the first one and 50% of the second one. So Maskefla Ravashi now asks him this: ilu masikle iu lakuli dibura kasher. Hashdika chadbade apostle. We have such a thing that if he would have completed the entire statement, he would have said, I was there for the whole thing. So then that would be valid. Now that he has another person together with him that says that he recognizes the signature, so it becomes invalid. Elamar Ravashi, rather Ravashi says, Afilu Imer Anihu Eid Sheni Puzzle. Even if he says, I am the second witness. The messenger himself was a witness. My timer. What's the reason for this? Ikula Bekiyam Aget. Ikula Betkanas Chachamim. Either he's going to say that he was there at the signing of the get, which he's doing for one signature. He was only there for his own signature, obviously. He couldn't have been there for the other signature, and then he signed it, but he wasn't there. That would not make sense. So he was there for his own signature. Now, what's going on with the other signature? The other signature, he's saying that I was there for. So he was there for both signatures.
These real signatures like John Hancock's course.
No, it's a signature. He was, so now it's coming out according to Rav Ashi, he was really there for both signatures. Just one of them he signed. Now the problem here is that when he signs a document, when you sign a document, you can actually testify about your own signature. You don't need two witnesses to testify. You call the guy in, and you say, "Did you sign this?" He says, "Yes, that's good enough." If you have two witnesses that signed on the document, you call them both in, you say, "Is this your signature?" They say, "Yeah, that's good enough." You're allowed to testify about the own. What's going on according to Rav Ashi is that he has a real testimony about his own signature, and he has a takanas chachamim about the other signature that it's valid if with just one person. So,
Fixing matching.
my time, I told I kula betakanas chachamim, I kula became again, I kula betakanas chachamim. I want to go further because it's going to be hard to go over this because it's like involving. Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. B'fani nechtav kulay, b'fani nechtav chetzei. It says in front of me it was written entirely. In front of me it was signed half. That's what we learned in the Mishnah. We said it's puzzle. Half of it was signed. It was only there for one signature. Ida chetzev vechidami. What happened with the other signature? Ilay medleka the kamaset klal. If you say no one was testifying at all. If one person says that I was there for the writing, and one person says I was there for the signing, it's puzzle. Each one is testifying entirely about the whole thing, and it's still invalid. So when you only have half the signatures, do you have to tell me that it's invalid? Ella, rather, what we're going to need to say, either we have two witnesses there. Rabbi said that we have one other witness there for the other signature, or else there's no chiddush. We're looking for a chiddush to say that this is puzzle. We assume it's, of course it's puzzle. Even if you have someone testifying about both signatures, it's puzzle. So it must be the chiddush here is that I do have someone else testifying about it. I have, like Rabbi says, or I have like Rav Ashi says. It's coming to exclude, maybe this may be a question. And it's coming to exclude what Rav Chisda said, because Rav Chisda's chiddush is that I actually have two signatures. I have two witnesses testifying about that. That's too much of a chiddush, that it's still puzzle. I can only go one step further. So Amalach Rav Chisda would say to you, how are you saying that I'm out of this? Rav Chisda said, remember that there's two witnesses testifying to the second signature. Why are you saying that I'm out? You're saying that I'm out, that my reason would not be accurate here, is because you're looking for a chiddush. And since you already said, b'fanei nechta, one person says b'fanei nechta, one person says b'fanei nechta, it's puzzle. So obviously, the chiddush is going to be Rav. No, you got it wrong. Amalach Rav Chisda would say to you, why do you have the other case where the person says, I was there for the writing, but I wasn't there for the signing? If you have someone else that was there for the signing, it's still no good. And so why do you have to say I was there for the writing and I wasn't there for the signing? That's of course no good. It says Ella Leizu Afsukatani. The Mishnah is not telling you a chiddush in that order. It's working like this. Not only this puzzle, but even the following thing is puzzle. Where it's becoming more puzzle as the cases go on. So therefore, you can't ask me, why do you have to tell me this case? Because that's the order that it's going. That we're going. That this is puzzle, but of course this is puzzle. Am I saying that right, or am I saying it the opposite?
Yeah, great.
Okay. Basically, what Rav Chisda is saying is that you don't have to look for a chiddush in this case to say that it's puzzle. You could just learn it that as it is and say that there's two witnesses there, and it's nevertheless puzzle. Okay, let's leave it here.
Excellent job.